All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. So nice of you to join us this afternoon. Welcome to the second installment of the 2025 South Asia Book Award Meet the Author webinar series, featuring this year's award-winning titles and authors. My name is Andrea Fowler. I am the Assistant Director at the Center for South Asia at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and one of the co-administrators of the South Asia Book Award. I'll be monitoring the chat throughout today's event, so please feel free to drop your questions and comments as we move along. The South Asia Book Award is supported by the South Asia National Outreach Consortium and given annually for up to 3 outstanding works of children's and young adult literature which accurately and skillfully portray the experience of individuals living in South Asia or of South Asians living in other parts of the world. Honor books and highly commended books are also recognized by the award committee for their contribution to the body of literature on this region. A complete list of all recognized titles, going back to our very first award year, is available on our website, southasiabookaward.wisc.edu. And as soon as we turn over to the proceedings, I'll drop a link to our website in the chat. Today's event will include approximately 40 minutes of author presentation and discussion, followed by Q&A, and we'll try to get to some of your questions as we move along. As I mentioned, please add your comments and questions in the chat box as we discuss today's book, and we'll get to as many of those comments and questions as we can. Our event today will be facilitated by Dr. Sabah Khan Vlok, Assistant Professor of Elementary Literacy at the University of Iowa and member of the South Asia Book Award Committee. And it is my pleasure to turn over today's proceedings to Dr. Khan Vlok.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. And yes, I'm so happy to be here. What an honor. My name is Sabah, and as Andrea shared, I am coming to you from Iowa City, Iowa. And oh my goodness, this is the book that we are here to celebrate, and the author, Meera Sriram, that we are here also to celebrate. So I am going to just give a little introduction and we'll get into our conversation, but we are going to begin with a read aloud where author Meera is going to share and read aloud the Spice Box to us. So thank you so much for being here today. It is my joy to welcome author Meera Sriram, a writer whose work centers the brilliance, complexity, and everyday beauty of children growing up in immigrant, diasporic, and multicultural communities. Author Meera's stories invite us to think about how home, memory, and culture shape the worlds our children move through. Her picture book, The Spice Box, winner of the 2025 South Asia Book Award, offers a tender intergenerational story that follows Rishi, his father, and his Paati, his grandmother, through the journeys of migration, cooking, learning, and belonging. The Spice Box itself becomes a kind of archive, holding a family's dreams, risks, and traditions. For teachers and parents, this book reminds us how powerful it is when children see their families' practices and histories honored in literature. Today, we have the opportunity not only to hear author Meera read The Spice Box, but also to learn about the creative process behind her work and to think together about how stories like this can deepen our understanding of culturally sustaining, identity-affirming education. So please please join me in welcoming author Meera Sriram. Like a little round of applause. Yay. So dear author Meera, if you would please begin our conversation by reading aloud the beautiful picture book that you have written, The Spice Box. We will all listen carefully.
Thank you. First of all, thank you everyone for joining us here today. Thank you, Andrea, for putting this together for us. And thank you, Sabah, for the lovely, lovely, kind introduction. And thank you, Sabah, really, for your continued commitment and incredible work year after year, and for recognizing this particular work, the Spice Box. I truly appreciate it. And it is my honor and absolute joy to share the Spice Box, to read it to our audience today. So we talked a little about it if we were going to do the digital route or if we were going to hold it in hand, but we decided we'll just make it a more tactile experience for everyone by just doing it the traditional way. So I'm going to read every spread, every page, and then lift it up so you can all take in the art. Thank you again. The Spice Box, written by me, Meera Sriram, and illustrated by Sandhya Prabhat.
And author Meera, you know what? I just had an idea. I can actually hold up the book.
Oh, perfect.
And
Yes.
that
Thank
way,
you. We are a team here. Let's do this.
okay, so I
Thank
want to make
you.
sure that we see the title page
Okay.
here, the
Thank you.
inside art,
Yes.
and this is where we are.
The Spice Box. A box full of flavors, full of stories. This is the box that Rishi ran his fingers over, just the way his father usually did. Dad, could I help make potato curry for Paati? He called. Dad was busy getting a room ready for Paati, arriving from India later in the day. Rishi couldn't wait. He opened the box, leaned in, and sniffed the spices in shades of gold and ruby. The smell of curry stirred up many family memories. Uh, I, I, I
Oh,
think it's the previous page.
did
Yeah,
I?
I think you might
Uh-oh.
have missed a
Turned
page.
too many pages. I'm so
Yes,
sorry. Thank you.
the smell of curry stirred up many family memories. This is the box his grandmother first filled when she was young in India. Lentils and mustard seeds, chili powder, and turmeric. Patty had tried many recipes. She had dreamed of becoming a chef at a time when few women were allowed to work. This is the box Patty carried with her when she left her village to find work in the city. She had walked miles and miles with her kitchen in a bag and little else to start a new life. With this magic box, Patty always cast a smell. On many nights, she filled the street with the delicious aroma of curries until one day her dreams came true and everyone called her the Wizard of Spice. This is the box Patty gave Dad when he left home with a note tucked inside. So you see the note, variety is the spice of life. Dad carried the box in his suitcase full of dreams and textbooks when he first came here. He was worried that he looked and spoke different. But Dad soon found out that many people here came from somewhere else just like him. Rishi grabbed the oil, a frying pan, a long ladle, and a few spoons. But wait! Is this a teaspoon or a tablespoon? This is the box that even got Dad confused. He'd mix up the measurements, making his dishes bitter or too spicy. But Dad never stopped cooking. The colors and flavors took him back home whenever he missed his family. Over time, his curries grew tasty. This is the box that made Patty call Dad the master of spice when she visited last year. Dad beamed for weeks. Rishi wished he could have the box for himself. He lifted it like an airplane. And pods, pearls of lentil and mustard seeds scattered across the floor, swirls of colorful dust spiraled to the ceiling. This is the box that brought tears streaming down Rishi's face. Slowly, Rishi picked up the box. He remembered how the spice box had crossed mountains with his grandmother and flown over oceans with his dad. He remembered how they held on to the box and the dreams big and small. Rishi rubbed his eyes and ran to the garage. When he returned, Dad was bent over the kitchen floor. Rishi handed him the tools and quickly wiped off the box. Dad's sad face changed. This is the box Rishi and his dad fixed together. This is the box Rishi very carefully refilled. This is the box Rishi used to cook for the first time. When Dad heated the oil, Rishi passed him lentils and mustard seeds. When Dad slid the potatoes in, Rishi sprinkled a pinch of turmeric, a dash of chili powder. And when Dad tasted the curry, he called Rishi the Prince of Spice. That day, Rishi's wish came true. This is Rishi's Spice Box, a box full of stories, full of dreams. Thank you. And there's back matter about the most commonly used spices. And it could be any assortment of spices, but this is just something that I use in my family. And there's Paati's potato curry, which is a favorite in the family. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen that the book is like a box. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to enjoy it with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me support you. I, I hope
Thank
that
you.
everyone could
You did
see
a
the
great
art.
job. Yes, perfect
So,
pacing.
and yeah, let's start a little bit about Sandhya Prabhat. Is that a illustrator that you know? And can you tell us a little bit about your collaboration there?
Sure. So Sandhya Prabhat is an artist. She illustrates children's books as well. She has worked on many books. She lives in the Bay Area. And typically, the way it works is that the publishing house or the editor who's picked up the manuscript also reaches out to the artist to sort of like they work with the art department, the art director. They have a vision in terms of style, in terms of color palettes for the story. And because they've been doing this for a long time, they're obviously academically qualified and they're experts. They make the match. So when so, and but they do check in with the author, or in this case, they did check in with me. Hey, do you have anyone in mind? When whatever. And then eventually, when they decided to go with Sandhya, I was super excited because I'd seen her work before. And interestingly, we shared the same background and we grew up in the same city. So I knew that some of the nuances would also be something that she would pick up instantly and would be able to do justice to the manuscript, the storytelling, and all of that. So yeah, I've met her, I guess, once or twice after the book was released, just at events our paths crossed. But she's also the illustrator of A Garden in My Hands, which was released before the Spice Box, which came out in 2023. So sometimes people are like, "Oh, this seems familiar, the style," and I'm like, "Yeah." She illustrated Garden as well. So yeah.
Beautiful, so beautiful. Okay, so now I'm gonna uh, go back a little bit. So you
Mhm.
already shared when we looked at the back matter that this was a family favorite recipe,
Mhm.
and that when you think of the spice box, it doesn't have to be these spices
Right,
necessarily. But what sparked so I understand that there is a connection, of course, to your own family and traditions and life.
right.
But what sparked the idea for the picture book, the spice box?
Right. Yeah. So, as an immigrant, food has always been a cultural bridge. I'm sure that'll resonate with so many of us, right? Like food always brings people together, and food. It was through food that I connected with so many people when I first moved to this country, who were, from cultures outside of my own. And at the same time, food also keeps me connected to my own roots back home, the home that I left behind in India. So when I think of the spice box, when I use the spice box every day, I am looking at all the gorgeous colors. I am using my fingers and feeling all the textures of the spices. I am obviously taking in all the aroma, sometimes the crackling of the mustard seeds and the lentils in the oil, the popping, the taste. I'm obviously tasting the delicious flavors. So it becomes such a powerful, like an intense sensory experience that it instantly uh, transports me to my mom's kitchen or like my grandmother's recipe or something like that, right? It just stirs up that feeling of home right away with nostalgia and all these beautiful memories. And I think this could be applied to any different object or experience, to different people. Like it could be the texture of a piece of clothing, and you probably connect to a special person in your life because of that. Or maybe the sights and smells and sounds of a particular place could take you back in time to a favorite memory. So I try to sort of harness the powerful sensory appeal of a spice box to talk about belonging and home and migration in this particular story.
Thank you so much. And so I on that last idea, the idea of home. So,
Mhm.
Paati is still in India.
Mhm.
Rishi's father and Rishi are now, I think, in the US, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you think about, I mean, so home is expansive. It's an expansive
Mhm.
idea.
Mhm.
How did you think about balancing the stories intergenerational arc, right? What's being passed down is the spice box, and that's uh the important family heirloom. So Pati, Rishi's father, and Rishi, how did you balance that intergenerational arc within this picture book structure?
It's a great question because it really ties in the themes and the craft aspect of it, which is very essential for storytelling, right? Good storytelling. Yeah, great question. So Rishi, the little boy in the story, wants to cook with a spice box because it means something to him and his family. So it's just not a box of spices. Yes, it holds the flavors and the colors, but there's more to it. So it's a box of stories now. So I needed to fill it up with stories first. So what are the origins of the box? So we talk about Pati's story, who first filled it. Then how did it get here in the West? So we needed to talk about the dad's story. So now that we have filled it up with stories, Pati's story and dad's story and Rishi's current story, it's important because that emotional connection and that the sentimental value associated with it is what is getting the reader invested in the box as much as Rishi's invested in it. So that emotional connection has to be established between the reader, the box, Rishi with the box, and the reader. So that is why I set out to tell these stories. But like you mentioned, it was definitely challenging because in a picture book space, flashbacks are very challenging to pull off because you're literally pulling the reader out of the current timeline, the current setting, and then you're bringing them back, which can be difficult for developing minds, younger audiences. But one of the ways that I achieved it was I kept the stories, the story arcs, the multiple story arcs tight and yet powerful, very brief but powerful. And then I had the running thread. So I sort of threaded the spice box through the narrative. So the box is still at the center of the story, it's always in focus. So that is sort of like the through line. And then these story arcs happen, pretty briefly, but in a very impactful way. So I hope
I
that
think
answered your
that
question.
No, that's so beautiful. And I think that it's one thing that really resonates with me is that the content of the spice box across these three generations stays constant. At least that's what I felt, right? That what Bhati filled her spice box with is what Rishi's father filled
Right,
the spice box with, and
right,
then what Rishi fills with. And I think
right,
it's also in the art, you can see that, of course, on the shelf, there are additional spices, there are additional things that we use for cooking, but there is
right.
this sort of central space, this spice box. And I wanted to, and I'm sorry, Author Mira, I'm going to go away from the questions that I sent you for
Oh,
just
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
minute.
No, that's totally
One
fine.
thing that I think is really important in the flashback is Bati's setting out, knowing with her spice box, knowing
Mhm.
that she wants to be a chef. And
Right,
there is something happening with gender there where you say that this, and then yet she becomes the Wizard of Spice. Will you
right,
slow that down just a minute and kind of tell us, like, when we look at this page where Paati is
right,
identified as the Wizard of Spice,
right.
I was curious, is she what did you envision, like who were the people that she was cooking for in that? Oh my gosh, I'm trying to find it here.
Right,
Right here.
right. Yes, yes. So, so you hit the nail on all the gender stuff going on there, because in every little story inside with Dad and Rishi and Paati, I'm trying to tell something. So I'm kind of adding in a few more layers there, briefly. One is just women being able to dream big, and go the distance, go the mile, and push boundaries to achieve their goal or their dream, right? And in this story, Paati did it way ahead of her time, like when few women were going to work, and she pushed boundaries by even dreaming big, wanting to do something, and then setting out to do it, which is the mountains that she crosses with her little kitchen in her bag. And most often, especially with food, uh, just culturally and in South Asian communities, which are largely patriarchal, you see the woman in the kitchen, you know, cooking for the most part. But if you go out there in restaurants and in commercial establishments and businesses, the chefs are always men. So that sort of bothered me. Like, why are women hold up, but then the tag of a chef and, a business person or, in positions of power and creativity, we have, largely men. Like, it's again patriarchal outside. So I wanted to break that stereotype and say, here's a woman who was dreaming big, who set out to achieve her dream. She pushed boundaries, and she's here standing on the street. It could be like a small kiosk, a food cart, a food truck, in on the sidewalk. So you have all these street foods in India, which are very common in many parts of South Asia, which is a huge part of where the working class usually like stop by like multiple times a day to get their food, their meals there. So she becomes this community person who's bringing the community together, the neighborhood together, and she is living her dream in the end. So that is what that spread is all about.
I thank you. Thank you for slowing that moment down and unpacking that for us. I do think that it's a moment that teachers who share, librarians who share, parents who share, right? That's a really important conversation to have, that who is Bhati cooking for? Where is she cooking? And I do want to just, as we listen to you read, we saw that Rishi's father is he is not cooking outside of the home. He is cooking
In
inside of the home,
flat,
where you also then subvert that gender,
right.
um, role. And it's genius. And I love it so
And
much.
there's no mom cleaning up
And
after
there's
him.
no mom
No mom
cleaning
cleaning
up.
up, and he
Yep,
is serving Patti, the woman.
that's
In the
right.
last spread, you see him actually serve the food and
Uh,
the potato curry, which is
That's right.
also like a reversal of roles, which
100%.
are, one of the stereotypes or the truth culturally in many South Asian communities and households.
Yeah, and I think that we are also, I don't know, in households, I hope, in moments and spaces where those gendered norms are being challenged and disrupted, you know. So thank you so much for in the space of a picture book being able to do that is so beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
okay, let me look at these questions. Um, so here's the next question, and it we'll see how we're doing. Rishi's father navigates migration with fear and hope, and I think that
Mhm,
that's so again another really important, transparent feeling that you bring forward, right? That the father doesn't come just confidently, that it's no problem, that there is some um, inhibition, right?
mhm, mhm.
So how do you think when children read, and how do you think children experience these emotions, even if even if they were not the ones who migrated?
Right.
I think about myself. I'm the daughter of immigrants,
Mhm,
but I often feel like it's a blurry line because
mhm.
the where when my parents landed here in their life and what how we had to start life here, you know,
Mhm,
was very much from that stance of being new to
mhm.
this country, which of course was part of my story too.
Right.
So just yeah, thinking about those emotions, what are your thoughts?
Right. Yeah, yeah, you put it really well. The complexity of the emotion, right? There is excitement, you have hope, you are dreaming big, but at the same time, there is confusion, there is self-doubt, there's fear, there's hesitation, apprehensions, all of this. And I think that emotion is universal in the sense that for children, you know, there's so many different experiences where they are new to a setting or new to an experience or new in terms of you know, just being different in terms of ability or any of the identity markers, physical experience, physical appearances in a room where people are unlike them. A new kid in the block, first day in a new school, new swimming lesson, something new that you've never tried before. So all these, in all these instances, this emotion is sort of universal. So that's why I think even though the context is migration in this particular story, and even if it's an adult going through it, I think as humans, we can all connect and the emotions will definitely resonate of that, the combination of excitement and hope, but at the same time, nervousness and doubt.
And Rishi really wanting, from the very beginning of the story, to be part of the tradition, to be part of the story that has come from Paati to the US, right? Like understanding that it is his to
Yes,
carry forward.
yes,
And
forward.
wherever his journey may be, right? Whether it's staying in this country, whether it's a return to your home country, whether it's a completely new place, this
Right,
icebox will go
right,
with
right.
Rishi now.
Yeah, sometimes I ask myself, what would Rishi's story be? Like, how would he fill
Yeah.
up the box with his story? So, yes, but he's dreaming, and I think the beauty of it is that he's carrying forward that tradition. He knows it means something. He knows the family's past. He knows where it's coming from,
Mhm.
and that is why he is also claiming ownership of it. Like, hey, now I'm taking it forward. So.
Yeah. And I think that what it does, this idea of like the next question was about cultural continuity. And I think
Mhm,
we've talked about it, but you know, so often in teaching in classrooms, we think about being culturally sustaining pedagogues,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And I think that with your story, we can also position Rishi
Mhm.
as like the person who does the culturally sustaining, right? Like
Mhm.
it is
Yeah,
not that children actually do have the space and agency and the bandwidth and the capacity to know that these are legacies and stories that they want to carry
forward.
forward. And so I think, you know, I'm going to get to a question about that a little bit later, but just thinking about both immigrant and non-immigrant like children, how do we think about Well, and if you have anything you'd like to say about this right now, how do we think about the importance of cultural competence, continuity, sustaining? Is there anything in terms of this character that you'd like to share?
Right. Um, I do have a quick thought. Uh, so most often for children growing up in immigrant households and immigrant families, there's a confluence of cultures happening. And I sort of empathize with that. I don't, for lack of better word, confusion, or when they wonder, why are we doing certain things a certain way? Like it could be as simple as eating with the hand, or why is the food, cooked and made a certain way, or why are we wearing this? Why are we celebrating holiday? Uh, and I think in informing them of where it is all coming from. It could be a family story, it could be ancestral history, it could be cultural history, there could be geography involved, it could be anything, but giving them that. The context, offering them that context and informing them of their past, of their history and the family stories can go a long way in elevating it into a celebration. So then, they know why we're doing this a certain way, or why are we eating this, or why are we eating with the hand, anything. So giving them that context really elevates it into a celebration. So I think that is something that I have personally experienced, and I think would really help families and children, especially, like you mentioned, have that continuity in the cultural practices and contexts.
Thank you so much. And I'm gonna just say something here. Thinking about the election that we just witnessed in New York
Hmm.
City with the beautiful uh
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say the beautiful Zohran Mamdani. And his very public what you just said really feels like what here we see an adult who
Hmm.
is going for a political office, who is being questioned in very real ways and being
Hmm.
pushed. And what he chooses to stand firm on is this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
how I eat. This is
Yeah.
who I'm going to be yesterday, today,
Right.
and tomorrow.
Right.
And
Right.
it always also takes me back to the great James Baldwin, who says, always tell your truth.
Truth.
Right? Like, so don't try to conform to become someone that you are
Right.
not.
Right.
And so I think just seeing Rishi's joy in that, and it's just unequivocal, right? Like Rishi is in, like he is 100% committed to this legacy. And so I'm going to ask now, and I think this is so, I felt nervous when I first read the book, with first time reading, and Rishi's got the spice box at the airplane, and I'm like, oh no. But I also knew enough about Rishi's father that I understood that there was going to be a loving solution, right, for this. So there's a moment when Rishi breaks the spice box,
Hmm.
right? It's a mistake. It's like in our excitement as a child, we're playing with something that maybe we understand the preciousness, but we also know like that we shouldn't play with it, but we also in our excitement,
Right. Right.
we.
Right.
And Rishi's father, of course, responds with love, and Rishi is part of the solution to how we're going to repair. So what is for you as the author say about cultural like the what Rishi is inheriting culturally through the spice box, um the grace of his father, and just being a child, right? Like sometimes things happen, it's just such a precious family heirloom. Why put that in the story? Why make the spice box break by Rishi's like kind of
Right.
playfulness? What
Right.
were you thinking there?
Um, Great question again. Just making me reflect and sort of go down that path of, when I was creating everything. A couple of thoughts come to mind. One is that the fact that Rishi is playing with it or chooses to have this playful moment with it, shows that the positive association that he has with the box, like, which means he's celebrating it, he's taking pride in it, he wants to own it, he's honoring his family's tradition and the family stories and the family memories and the family's past and history. So that's why it's like, what would a kid do with something joyful? They want to play with it. So that is the positive association he has with the box. Um, but also that's a spread when I pause there and like kids are like, and then I pause and I usually ask the kids when I visit schools, like, so what do you think Rishi's dad did? Or how would you feel? And they would be like, I would feel that's the spread. I would feel guilty. Oh no, does he have more spies? Like, oh my God, that's so precious. Like, did his dad ground him? Like, all of these conversations happen. And I see even sometimes parents going, oh no. They're probably thinking of the mess and the cleanup. But there's another intentional choice of the dad being very forgiving, and showing grace and empathy, and the boy and Rishi, his son, coming together. Uh, I definitely drew that again from the stereotype, which is like there's some truth culturally to how um, considering how patriarchal the communities are, it's uncommon for men to visibly express emotions, and they are usually considered to be disciplinarians. And here is a forgiving dad. And it opens up two things. One is it recognizes and acknowledges dads, fathers who are forgiving. So we don't want to reinforce that stereotype. But at the same time, here is a possibility that we are presenting to break the stereotype, for dads and fathers who sort of fit the mold of the stereotype. Here is an option. Here is showing grace. Here is forgiveness coming together, to hold on to something precious. So that space is being created there. And I've had families, parents come and talk to me about the choice of creating the dad to be forgiving. Yeah, and coming together as a family to address it.
Well, and even, Rishi, like, there's not really even an exchange between them, like
Mhm,
Rishi's father gets down on the floor and
mhm,
then Rishi runs to get
mhm.
the tools, right? And
Yeah.
and he has that sense that, look, there's a problem and I'm part of that solution. So let me get the tools. And then Rishi's father receiving those tools, right?
Yes.
Just like, let's just get to work and try to fix this, especially on the day that Paati is actually coming. Like, this
Um,
is great. She is on her way. So I think it's so, yeah, I love that. Rishi is disappointed, but Rishi is not afraid,
right.
and I think that that's really, really important. Yeah. And so I'm going to jump down to this question,
Mhm,
of, right, from this story, how can what would you, as the author, say to parents, especially the parents who are coming up to you and talking to you about this
mhm.
decision, right? Because, I mean, I would imagine even when you ask kids, like, what would happen? Maybe some of them say, I would get in trouble, right?
Right.
I would
Right.
get in trouble, and whatever that trouble means.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage adults to encourage children to take
Right.
risks, to make mistakes, and to know that everything's going to be okay? Like, what, especially culturally speaking, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I think being encouraging of the intention and the effort and the joy, and not necessarily the outcome. So you don't have to do something exactly right or perfect. It doesn't have to be, but as long as uh, there's effort, there is understanding, there is joy, the intentions are right, I think that acknowledgement goes a long way than the outcome or whether it's perfectly done, right? So yeah, so and of course modeling behavior. I'm a huge believer in that. Like before I preach to my kids, like am I uh, modeling that for them, because so much the kids are watching you. So it's more about that. If I am being secure and if I'm being intentional and I'm being honest in any cultural practice or tradition that I am trying to bring to the family, regardless of how the outcome is. Is the rangoli perfect? Is the henna as beautiful as it is supposed to be? Versus here we are coming together to celebrate this, to talk about this. Then I think that goes a long way than the outcome in itself.
I love that. And I am recently working on a project with mothers, and the project is with Muslim mothers, and a lot is it's so many moms have reiterated that sentiment that you just said,
Oh,
that and it's so maybe as part of the diaspora, when you don't live in your
right,
home country and you don't have the just sort of built-in models, right? Like this
right.
is as a society how culturally we navigate, right? So many mothers take that
Yeah,
responsibility,
right.
mothers and fathers in this case, right? Take the
Yeah.
responsibility that we know that we are your light. We are the ones showing you,
Yeah.
right? How
Yeah.
to be in both worlds, how to be your whole human self
Yes.
in all of these ways, right? So
Yes.
that idea of modeling, I hear so often. So thank you so much for sharing that. That yeah, like we want our young people to engage. We want them to be curious. We want them to be part of the culture. And so, yeah, and so much responsibility is on the shoulders of families to make that.
Yeah, I'm so glad it resonated with you, and I'm so thrilled to hear that's like a universal sentiment again.
I love
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think it is something. Yeah, thank you so much. Um, so I'm going to ask you now. So many teachers, we talked about culturally sustaining. So
Mhm.
many teachers want to bring culturally sustaining materials into their
Mhm.
classrooms, but worry about getting it wrong. Um,
Mhm.
and so what advice do you have for educators who want to honor students' home cultures with care?
Yeah, first of all, thank you to all the teachers and educators. Yeah, thank you for the work that you do. Um, but a couple of things come to mind, just thoughts. I don't know if there's advice, but just a couple of thoughts. One is I always talk about consistency in honoring and respecting cultures. It's not just on a single day. It's not just on Diwali, but also, and not just on in May for the Heritage Month, but through the year. So that consistency in honoring and respecting and learning and growing together. But the other thing is also just again, honest effort, just genuinely wanting to show it in small and big ways, just making the child feel seen and feel heard. And it could be something as simple as trying to get the name right, to say the name right, or knowing the child's family history or background, and then bringing in family members to talk about anything like the culture, holiday, whatever it may be, or maybe even bringing in uh, authors and creatives and artists and storytellers, who share the background of the culture, who share the same background of culture, and also, more importantly, centering joy. Yes, we want the trauma stories, like to know the history and the background and to offer context, but also centering joy and normalizing that as well for the child. So these are some things that I always talk about, like when I present in schools, then I make sure that I try to talk to the teachers and educators and staff about all of this when we try to exchange ideas. This is something that I always say, like keep it through the year in simple things, but also bringing in normalizing the joyfulness and building a community around it for the child.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the way I frame that often is like, where do you start the story?
Yeah.
And I think the idea, right, of what is true multicultural, justice-oriented education is that
Yes.
when things are just dropped in
Yes.
occasionally,
Yes. Yeah.
rather,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And I also, I think, by doing all the things that you just named, teachers build their own knowledge, right? They
Yes.
they become
Right.
um people who are knowledgeable,
Yeah,
people who are willing to have a seat at the table, to listen critically and learn. And I
right,
think a teacher could learn so much from Rishi, right? Like, I think that's the beauty of your story too, is that this young person has tremendous cultural knowledge. And how do we make space for our young people to share and to bring those stories to
right.
schools?
Absolutely. And then families are also going to be more forgiving when there is honest effort to share culture, the willingness to, yeah. So, uh, yeah, I agree completely with everything you just said. Yes.
Thank you so much. So I know that we're at well, Central Time, 4:50. So I had a couple more questions, but I want to check in with Andrea. Do we want to pause and ask some questions from the audience?
I've been monitoring the chat, and it looks like we've got one question that's kind of floating around here that the two of you haven't already covered.
Okay.
And the one remaining question that we have here, Mira, is are there any stories that are sort of, stories you want to tell that you haven't had a chance to work on yet?
Oh, oh, there are so many. So many stories. I mean, obviously, I can't talk all about them. But yeah, I feel like um, most often when there's like, say, something like a holiday, there is always like, oh, we have this book on this holiday, but then there is a whole spectrum of human experiences that are unique to how the holiday is being celebrated. So we have so many stories to tell. Even if it is like a book on holy, then we have a diversity of experiences within that, right? So every uh you know something as simple as a holiday and something that we commonly see, there are so many ways, perspectives that we can bring to the table, even in how the holiday is being celebrated or recognized in a family. And yeah, I have, as an immigrant raising children here across cultures, there are so many uh, things to talk about, like what is home. And I have a story that I'm working on about just going back and forth. um, that it is more than enough. You don't have to be half of this, but half of this, but it's whole. That is what makes you whole. And there's beauty in going back and forth. The back and forth could be anything. It doesn't have to be just physical space. It could be two homes, it could be two faiths, it could be two cultures, anything. So there's a story that I want to talk about, that I want to tell, talking about that. Yeah, so this is just a few of these stories, but yes, I have many, many stories to tell. Thank you for asking that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask my final question.
Mhm.
And then I'm also inviting our audience, if you do have any questions for author Mira, well, I could actually ask two more questions. So let me go ahead and ask the question about um, what does it mean to you to write Tamil South Asian immigrant childhoods into U.S. children's literature? And so I'm also gonna like layer that with um, the publishing world, the
Mm.
industry. How do you navigate?
Right. Both are loaded questions, but I could go on and on, but I'll try to keep it brief. Obviously, when I set out to switch careers, I used to be an electrical engineer. And when my daughter came along, our firstborn came along, we read books on everything, like picture. That was the first time when I was 28, when I read my first picture book when I was 28. And then I was blown away by the power of the medium. We read on so many picture books, and then eventually it bothered me that our stories were missing. So one of the reasons why I set out to switch careers and start this the storytelling process was because I wanted to see children of color, brown kids on book covers. Like literally, that was missing. So it's a joy for me to see all these books, my own, and so many other books with children of color and brown kids on book covers, because that's a powerful thing when kids see that, just being seen. And also when families come up to me, when kids make these connections at school visits and say, oh, I did this, this happened to me, this, like, my grandmother lives in India, like I came from Pakistan, like we do this in Sri Lanka. Like it is just such a powerful moment. Like it makes it all worth it at the end of the day. And yeah, so that all of that is pure joy. And to have this Tamil representation in particular with amma, the word in gift for amma or Paati here, and the way the curry is made, even the potato curry is made. The potato curry is the way it is because I wanted to decolonize the curry and reclaim it for ourselves. So all of that is like it's just opening a slightly bigger window. There's this narrow window, and then you're just like widening it a little bit because I get asked like, "Oh, do you make butter chicken at home?" No, I don't make butter chicken at home. And like, "Oh, you don't speak Hindi?" No, I don't speak Hindi. So it's just like open, like as opposed to this one monolith of India, just fleshing it out even more, making it a little more nuanced and layered. Uh, is a process, and I enjoy it. And yeah, so that makes me feel good as well when when we go into the peel the layers a little bit more one by one. And in terms of the publishing industry, obviously these stories are out here today because there were people who believed in the importance of it just as much as I did. So there were champions, there were editors who welcomed it, who saw the value in it and the joy in it as much as I did. So I have worked with some amazing editors who have I mean, we have, it's a collaborative process, and we have come together to put the story in the world in all its, glory in terms of all the breaking stereotypes and the pushing boundaries that we talked about. So there are definitely champions in the industry. And it's always warms my heart when I come back from a story time or from a presentation and I see how this has crossed borders, that the story has actually crossed boundaries and it has resonated. Even if you don't have a spice box, that you have a spice jar or like a spice rack or a spice drawer or a spice pantry. Like so people always connect with it. Our experiences are universal, our emotions are universal, and we are definitely more similar than different. And that's like the theme in my body of work, regardless of the cultural context, which obviously offers representation, is that we are more similar than different. So, but I would love to see in the publishing industry, more nuanced, fleshed out stories, not just tokens of culture, but going deeper in all honesty and authenticity. Yeah. So, and like I mentioned, we don't have to have a cap like have the representation like measured. There can be countless holiday stories. There can be countless food stories. We don't have to say, oh, the BIPOC food is over, or the skin color is done, or the name is done. We don't have to have these trends. We can, as many, there's no cap on the books on dinosaurs or cats or dogs.
True.
Every story is different. So same way, every experience is universal, and there's a new perspective to every human experience and emotion. So, yeah.
I love that. Wow. That's Thank you. I'm for days, I will be thinking about what you just said.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm
thank
gonna
you for
think
asking
about
that.
it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna write about it. And so I do want to hand it back to Andrea in just a second, but you mentioned the theme in your work, across your work, is that um, I mean, we have very unique stories, and there is so much more that connects us, that bridges us, right? It doesn't have to be a spice box, you said. It can be a jar, it can be a cabinet, it can be a pantry. I have a little cabinet.
Yeah.
And it's just a mismatch of bottles. And I know that sometimes the bottle empties and then you go to the store and now the cumin is in this plastic bottle that says cumin, and it's just something you could and I'm like, I can't use this. I have to use my jar,
My
right?
job.
I have to empty this out, recycle it, and use the jar that I've used for 20 years. Like I just cannot get rid of this jar.
Yes, yes.
So there is something very important, and it is so beautiful. I mean, I feel like, because of the context of a picture book, Rishi is inherits. the spice box, which maybe, of course, I feel like his father will still use it and it will still be the family heirloom. But for Rishi to understand that this is also his, to play with, to enjoy, to have joy. So what do you hope, like after a child, a family listens to the spice box, what do you want them to carry with them?
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, I could hope for anything. So I'm going to go and say that I hope a child remembers uh, to go back and ask for a family story, like to find out about the family history. Maybe there's a special item or something that they use every day or celebrate, or maybe it's a cultural practice, maybe it's a holiday, maybe the child's name, whatever it could be, like, try to find out the family's past and history and journey. There's always beauty and power in that, and so much meaning in that. And obviously, I hope a child wants to try something new that they've never tried before, or dream big, or aspire to be something when they grow up. So that's one. Yeah. And for adults, I think I, I I hope that they think back to an object or a
Mm,
tradition or a place and they just remember the feeling of home.
hmm Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, home comes in many shapes and forms, and
Yes.
sometimes we get to carry it with us, and that is just, and it is intergenerational. And thank you so much. Andrea, I want to hand it back to you. If everyone could please just put out some hearts and some emojis and some
Oh, thank you.
hand claps and just a little love for our beautiful scholar, author. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for all that you do for us, author
Thank
Mira. Thank you.
you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
And
Thank you so much.
congratulations on being the recipient of the 2025 South Asia Book Award for your beautiful book, The
Thank you.
Spice Box.
Thank you so much for this beautiful celebration, this very meaningful conversation. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for bringing us together in community here. Thank you, educators, for the work you do. Thank you, librarians. Thank you, Sabah Committee. Thank you so much.
What an honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today and just echoing some of what Sabah said. Mira, the comment you made about there being no limits on stories, that's going to stick with me and sit with me too for many the next several months as the book award committee goes into our annual review for this next year's submission. So I think that the timing of that comment could not be more perfect. So I think that'll be very good food for thought for all of us as we go into our next round of deliberations. And for some of the other work that I do. So thank you for sharing that thought and putting voice to what I think many of us feel and just maybe don't ever think to put it in those exact words, but you put it so eloquently and so beautifully. So thank you for sharing that. Um, and it's been really lovely to listen to the two of you talk this afternoon. And just what a great way to start the week. So thank you both for everything today. Before we stop, I do want to highlight one last question that came into the chat. Mira, somebody's asking if you know the Matchbox Diary is a picture book that links tiny objects to memorialize the immigration experience. And they go on to say, I love the spice box as a cultural continuity.
Right. The title sounds very familiar. Does the person who asked the question know when it was released? Like what, I feel like the title sounds very familiar. I might have even read it, but is that a recent one? Because this was like a few years ago, many years ago, actually. Yeah.
Does not say in the question specifically.
Okay. So yeah, I will look for it again. I don't remember the plot right now on top of my head, but I feel like the title definitely sounds
Uh,
familiar. Matchbox Diary.
2013.
Yeah,
2013.
that's what I thought. Yeah, because I wrote the Spice Box in 2016. Um, so, I mean, that's when I started writing. So I remember coming across that title somewhere, but I don't remember the plot or the story right now. But I will go check it out again. Thank you for that reminder.
Great.
I also
Well,
wanted to share that I did put the link for author Meera's website where you can see all of the beautiful books and actually for the Spice Box there are some resources for educators and families. And I believe that's on your website. Is that right, author Meera? I feel like
Oh, say it again. Sorry, I was reading I
oh
was
no no
trying to
no please
finally
I was
look at
just
the
saying that
chat because I was so focused, engaged in our conversation. I hadn't had a chance to look at the
there
chat.
is quite a bit in the chat. But I believe that the resources for the Spice Box are on
Yes.
your webpage, right?
That is correct. So
Yeah.
there on my website, there's a page for every book, and for the web page for Spicebox, there are educator resources that you could download and use in your classroom. And feel free to reach out to me if you need anything at all. Yeah, there's a contact form too. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Okay, well, congratulations again, and thank you. And Andrea, anything else that we need to do, say?
yeah, just really quickly, just want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your time and your attention, your wonderful comments and questions. Thank you, Soba, for facilitating this conversation. And Meera, thank you for joining us. And again, congratulations. I do also want to highlight that I hope all of you will consider joining us in January. On January 14th, we'll do our final webinar in the Meet the Author series when we honor our young adult winner, Neil Bascom, and his book, The Salt Thief. And also just wanted to mention that we are currently working with the illustrator of the Spice Box, Sandhya, to do an Illustrating South Asia webinar. And we're finalizing the dates and details for that, and that'll come in early 2026. So we'll be speaking with Sandhya specifically about the process for illustrating all of these wonderful books. So please stay tuned for more information there. And very soon, as soon as I have it in my hands, I'll be sending Meera her wonderful award
Thank
just to fully honor this fantastic achievement. So we hope you will join us for these upcoming events. Thank you again so much for joining us today. Enjoy what is left of your Monday, and thank you so much.